Alright, welcome back guys to episode 2 of my FFTCG card chat series. Now in the last episode I promised you guys that I'd talk about how to actually find Wave 1 cards, so that's what I'm going to do today. Now what I'm doing today for my mindless task is I'm setting up a grading order. I'm just doing a final spot check before I send it out. So you can kind of ignore what I'm doing, but I do have some cool Wave 1 cards in there. Now, when it comes to Wave 1 cards, I talked about how rare they are, how I think they're going to go up in value, but I never discussed how do you actually get them. And now with people watching my channel, a lot of people are reaching out to me and saying, hey, how do I actually get these cards? I watch your videos, I really love Final Fantasy TCG, but I can't seem to find these cards anywhere. And that problem's here to stay. You're not going to have an easy time finding these, but hopefully some of these tips help you out. So method 1 is the most obvious and straightforward one, which is to simply buy a card online that's listed as a Wave 1 card. Now that's easier said than done because almost no store actually lists a card as a Wave 1. There's a few people on eBay who will specify that the cards are Wave 1, so you could always buy those. One vendor that I want to point out is Cavern UK. They're the only guys I know that have an official store that's listing cards as Wave 1 that aren't just the errata. Like BigOrbitCards.uk used to actually list like Ramza, Squalls, Valifors, those kind of things as Wave 1. Unfortunately, they've been sold out. They've been sold out for a long time. And full disclosure, a big part of that is because I bought them out. I bought out pretty much every Wave card that they ever had listed. I even talked to them multiple times, sent them like communications via email, and as soon as whatever they had that was Wave 1, I bought them out. So they may get restocks because they buy people's private collections, but for the most part, you can't really look at those guys. But Card Cavern still has a bunch left in stock. I don't think they have any more errata left, but I highly recommend checking out their store. I'll leave it in the description section below if you want to pick up some maybe random Wave 1 legends or something like that. So that's method 1, which is to simply find cards listed on eBay or actual vendors listed as Wave 1, although that kind of resource is very small and probably going to be completely gone within the next 2 or 3 months. Now, method 2 is kind of a more advanced method. It takes a lot more time, but I have found it to be effective for many things other than errata. Method 2 is to actually find Opus 1 cards on eBay, and it has to be real images, not stock images, and to actually look through each of the images and see if they're Wave 1 versions. I was actually able to buy a Wave 1 Valifor for like $5 or something like $10, a foil version off eBay because the guy didn't realize that he had a Wave 1 Valifor and just listed it at Wave 2 prices, and I snapped that up right away. So again, this is really time consuming because the reality is that when you see listings on eBay for Opus 1 cards, 99.9% of the times they are the Wave 2 versions. This is what I'm talking. This is why I'm so sure that the Wave 1 print run is so small. If it was really something where like half of the Opus 1 cards are Wave 1, you'd see a lot more of them listed, but they are few and far between. It's almost impossible to find these cards in listings, particularly so in the United States for whatever reason. So obviously I'm based in the United States. I want to say that they're a lot more common in like the UK or Australia, which is what a lot of my private collection purchases have been from. From the United States, I've almost never been able to pick up Wave 1 cards for whatever reason. Alright, so that's method 2, and if I can, I'll cut to some eBay screenshots if I could give you some real-world examples, and I'll do kind of like a voiceover instead of this video. So method 2 is to scan eBay pictures to find Wave 1 cards. Now method 3, this is actually going to be the last method I'm going to discuss, but it's my personal favorite and the one where I've gotten the vast majority of my currently huge collection, and that is simply reaching out to store owners, players on the FFTCG marketplace, and just talking to them. Now, I would say 90% of my Wave 1 cards have been through this method, from buying bulk lots off either individuals or store owners who are trying to liquidate or who don't care about their FFTCG stock the way I do. And the way you do it is this. You look at some of the people who are selling Final Fantasy TCG cards online, and you can gauge from their stock kind of if they've been in business for a long time, because they need to have been doing this for at least 2 years to have any access to Wave 1 cards. And then you just email them. Or if they have a phone number listed, which is almost never the case, you call them. I have called a handful of individuals and just spoken to them directly and said, hey, do you have these cards? And one of the tricky parts is that I'd say at least 90% of them still don't know what a Wave 1 card is. So then you have to go through the problem of explaining it to them like, hey, do you have any Opus 1 cards in stock that have, lower colon placement or the foil? Like, you can never explain to them the foiling, they'll never get it, but you can explain to them the colon difference or straight up errata sometimes. But then you run into this problem where if you do that, a lot of times they'll kind of get curious and be like, why is this guy asking about this? And then sometimes they'll start doing research and try to jack up the price on you. But that's kind of just like the risk of doing business. And usually even if it's jacked up, it's lower than what I think these cards are going to be worth in the future. So I don't mind if they charge me a few extra bucks for their Wave 1 cards. So that is by far the most effective way, I think, to get Wave 1 cards. You got to reach out to these stores. You got to go on the FFTCG marketplace, and if you find these people who have been around the game for a long time, who don't seem to be collectors and don't seem to care about cards being Wave 1, they just want to play the game, then reach out to them and see if they're willing to part with some of their collection. What I'll typically do is, especially for players, because I try to kind of help the collectors and the players out, if they're players, usually sometimes I'll have cards like this, right? And this is not really like a tournament viable card. Like, you can use it in tournaments, but it's not a good card or anything. And I'll say like, hey, is there any meta card that you need? Like, like popular ones like Ilua, Cloud of Darkness, Wall, what's the other one? Shantota, whatever it is. And they'll be like, yeah, I need playsets of blah, blah, blah. And I'll just trade them like actual viable meta tournament cards for collectible cards like these Wave 1 errata. Like, I know in other card games there's always this like war between collectors and players. I don't see why it needs to be like that. Like, I'm happy to help players out on their quest to kind of build competitive decks. And what I want in return is to kind of get collectible cards that I value. So it's kind of like a win-win situation. And pretty much that's the main 3 methods. So method 1 is to simply find cards listed as Wave 1 on eBay or card vendors, which as far as I know today is only, what I said before, now I'm blanking out, a card cavern. And then method number 2 is to kind of browse eBay and investigate images and see if they're selling Wave 1 versions at Wave 2 prices. And method 3 is to reach out directly to collectors or store owners and negotiate with them on purchasing Wave 1 cards. Now again, that takes the most effort. You're going to have to do weird things because a lot of times those people are in different time zones. But again, that's the only viable way I've found to find Wave 1 cards in bulk at reasonable prices. So anyways, if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the section below. Make sure to subscribe, like, and all that other good stuff that YouTube people always spam. And I hope this video was informative for you guys. If you want to learn anything else, just let me know. Thanks for watching. Have a good night, guys. Take care.